The moment their eyes meet, moisture forms. Not the romantic kind. Sweat beads on human soldier Patrick Griffin's forehead as he locks gazes with Tara, the captivating Bajoran delegate. The conference room on Space Station Gamma 7 suddenly feels several degrees warmer. Diplomatic tensions between Earth and Bajor have reached a boiling point. This meeting, meant to broker a ceasefire, now teeters on the edge of disaster. Patrick's heart races, his crisp military uniform growing damp under the arms. Across the table, Tara's violet eyes widen, her breath quickening as she grips the edge of her seat. Colonel Jenna Harper, Earth's lead negotiator, notices the change in her subordinate. She clears her throat, attempting to draw attention back to the matter at hand. As we were saying, the proposed demilitarized zone along the Orion Arm would... What is the meaning of this? Ambassador Carex, the Bajoran delegation leader, slams his fist on the table. His ridged nose flares as he glares at Patrick. Is this some kind of human trick? Are you using pheromones to influence our delegate? The room erupts into chaos. Bajoran officials huddle around Tara, shielding her from view. Earth's representatives form a protective circle around Patrick. Colonel Harper steps forward, her voice steady but strained. Ambassador, I assure you there's no trickery here. Perhaps we should take a brief recess to collect ourselves. As if on cue, the station's intercom crackles to life. Attention all delegates. This is Chief Zaxeler of Andromedan Security. We've detected an unusual biological response in the conference room. Please remain calm as we investigate. The doors slide open, revealing a team of green-skinned Andromedan security officers. They move swiftly, scanning the room with handheld devices. Chief Zaxeler, a towering figure with 4 arms, approaches Patrick and Tara. We need to isolate these two for further examination. The rest of you, please vacate the premises immediately. As Patrick is led away, he catches a glimpse of Dr. Elena Sokolov rushing toward the scene, her eyes alight with scientific curiosity. The xenobiologist's voice carries over the commotion. Wait, this could be a breakthrough in interspecies relations. We need to study this phenomenon. Colonel Harper grabs Dr. Sokolov's arm, her expression grave. Elena, this is a diplomatic nightmare. The last thing we need is for the Bajorans to think we're experimenting on their people. Meanwhile, Tara faces her own interrogation. Ambassador Carex looms over her, his voice a low growl. Explain yourself, Tara. Your actions could jeopardize everything we fought for. Are you loyal to Bajor or not? As Patrick and Tara are escorted to separate quarantine units, news of the incident spreads through Gamma 7 like wildfire. Humans and Bajorans alike gather in the station's common areas, speculating wildly about what transpired in the conference room. Admiral Xanthor's voice booms over the station-wide communication system. Attention all personnel and delegates. An emergency meeting will convene in 1 hour to address the situation. Until then, I urge everyone to remain calm and avoid spreading unsubstantiated rumors. In their isolation chambers, Patrick and Tara sit on opposite sides of the station, each lost in thought. Their unexpected connection has thrown the delicate balance of galactic politics into disarray. As medical staff run tests and security officers stand guard, one question hangs in the air. Could this moment of attraction between two individuals from warring species be the key to peace, or will it ignite a new and more deadly phase of the conflict? As the question of Patrick and Tara's unexpected connection hung in the air, Admiral Xanthor's voice crackled through the station's communication system once more. All involved parties, report to Conference Room Alpha immediately. The tension in the air was palpable as humans and Bajorans filed into the room, their eyes darting suspiciously between one another. Patrick and Tara, now released from their isolation chambers, sat at opposite ends of the long table, stealing furtive glances at each other. Admiral Xanthor, an imposing figure with steel-gray skin and piercing yellow eyes, stood at the head of the table. We find ourselves at a crossroads, he began, his deep voice resonating through the room. What transpired earlier today could either spark a diplomatic incident or something else entirely. He nodded to Dr. Elena Sokolov, who stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with barely held back excitement. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we're on the brink of a breakthrough in interspecies relations, she announced, activating a holographic display. As the 3D images flickered to life, showing complex molecular structures, Dr. Sokolov explained her findings. Our preliminary tests show that Soldier Griffin and Delegate Tara possess a rare genetic compatibility. This isn't just a random attraction, it's a biological imperative that could pave the way for peaceful coexistence between humans and Bajorans. Murmurs rippled through the room. Colonel Harper leaned forward, her brow furrowed. Doctor, are you suggesting that this connection could end the war? Potentially, yes, Dr. Sokolov replied, her voice brimming with optimism. Ambassador Karek snorted derisively. This is preposterous. You expect us to believe that some hormonal response could undo years of conflict? Admiral Xanthor raised a hand, silencing the room. I propose we put Dr. Sokolov's theory to the test. We'll place Soldier Griffin and Delegate Tara in a controlled environment to study their connection further. The room erupted into chaos. Human and Bajoran officials argued vehemently, their voices rising in a cacophony of protest. Patrick and Tara exchanged worried glances across the table, both uncertain about their role in this unfolding drama. Silence! Admiral Xanthor's voice boomed, instantly quieting the room. My decision is final. The potential to end this war far outweighs any diplomatic concerns. Within hours, Patrick and Tara found themselves in a specially designed habitat module on Gamma 7. The circular room was comfortably furnished but dotted with unobtrusive monitoring devices. A large window offered a breathtaking view of the star-studded vastness of space. As the door sealed behind them, Patrick cleared his throat awkwardly. So, I guess we're roommates now? Tara managed a small smile, her violet eyes meeting his. It appears so, Soldier Griffin. Please call me Patrick, he said, taking a tentative step towards her. As the days passed, Patrick and Tara's initial awkwardness gave way to genuine curiosity about each other. They shared stories of their childhoods. Patrick's on the bustling streets of New Chicago. Tara's in the serene monasteries of Bajor's Kendra province. I never imagined Bajorans could be so normal, Patrick admitted one evening as they sat by the window, watching a distant nebula shimmer. Tara laughed softly. And I never thought a human could be so introspective. The propaganda on both sides has done its job well, hasn't it? Their conversations often turned to the war, revealing how little they actually knew about its origins. It's strange, Tara mused. We've been fighting for so long, but neither of us can articulate exactly why. As Patrick and Tara grew closer, the monitoring equipment recorded unprecedented levels of oxytocin and other bonding hormones in both subjects. Dr. Sokolov watched the data with growing excitement, certain she was on the verge of a major breakthrough. Outside the habitat, life on Gamma 7 was changing. Inspired by Patrick and Tara's example, human and Bajoran civilians began to interact more freely. They shared meals in the station's cafeteria, exchanged cultural artifacts, and even organized joint cultural events. However, not everyone viewed these developments positively. Colonel Harper and Ambassador Karek, unlikely allies in their skepticism, began a covert investigation into Dr. Sokolov's background. I don't trust her, Colonel Harper muttered as they pored over the doctor's personnel files. Her enthusiasm seems manufactured. Ambassador Karek nodded grimly. Agreed. No true scientist would jump to such conclusions so quickly. Their probe uncovered Dr. Sokolov's past involvement in controversial genetic engineering projects, casting a shadow over her current research. Meanwhile, in the habitat, Patrick and Tara's bond continued to deepen. One evening, as they stood by the window watching a meteor shower, Patrick turned to Tara, his heart racing. Tara, I've never felt this way about anyone before. Tara's violet eyes shimmered as she looked up at him. Neither have I, Patrick. As their lips met in a tender kiss, the monitoring equipment recorded a spike in their pheromone levels. In the control room, Dr. Sokolov let out a triumphant cry. We've done it! This is the key to peace! But even as hope blossomed on Gamma 7, dark clouds were gathering. A sleek, unmarked ship docked at the station, its occupants moving swiftly and purposefully through the corridors. Their leader, a charismatic Bajoran named Voron Kal, watched the mingling humans and Bajorans with barely concealed disgust. "Our people have lost their way," he growled to his followers. "It's time to remind them of their true heritage." As Voron Kal began to gather supporters among the Bajoran population, Admiral Xanthor received alarming intelligence reports. Both human and Bajoran military forces were mobilizing, preparing for potential action against Gamma 7. The Admiral stared out of his office window at the vast expanse of space, his four hands clasped behind his back. The experiment that was meant to bring peace now teetered on the brink of igniting a new and potentially more devastating phase of the conflict. In the habitat, blissfully unaware of the gathering storm, Patrick and Tara lay in each other's arms, their breath sinking as they drifted off to sleep. The fate of two species now rested on their shoulders, a burden they had yet to fully comprehend. As Patrick and Tara slept peacefully in their habitat, unaware of the brewing storm outside, Dr. Elena Sokolov made a startling discovery in her lab. Her eyes widened as she pored over the latest data from the monitoring equipment. "This can't be right," she muttered, double-checking her findings. "The pheromones. They're spreading beyond the habitat." The doctor's revelation sent shockwaves through Gamma 7's administration. Admiral Xanthor called an emergency meeting with Colonel Harper, Ambassador Karex, and Dr. Sokolov. "Explain this to me again, Doctor," the Admiral said, his yellow eyes fixed intently on Sokolov. Dr. Sokolov pulled up a holographic display of Gamma 7's layout. Red dots pulsed across the image, representing the spread of the pheromones. "The unique chemical compounds produced by Patrick and Tara are permeating the station's air filtration system," she explained. "We're seeing increased instances of human Bajoran attraction across Gamma 7. Colonel Harper frowned. "Are you saying this connection is contagious?" "Not exactly," Dr. Sokolov replied, "but it's certainly influential. The pheromones seem to be lowering inhibitions and increasing empathy between humans and Bajorans." Ambassador Karex leaned forward, his ridged nose flaring. "This is unacceptable. We must put an end to this experiment immediately." Admiral Xanthor raised a hand, silencing the ambassador. "On the contrary, I believe we should expand it." The room fell silent as the Admiral outlined his plan. Within hours, 10 carefully selected human Bajoran pairs were placed in controlled environments similar to Patrick and Tara's habitat. Among these new pairs were Lieutenant Commander Marcus Ward and Lyra Dax. As they entered their assigned quarters, Marcus couldn't help but feel a mix of trepidation and curiosity. "Well, this is unexpected," he said, trying to break the ice. Lyra nodded, her eyes scanning the room. "Indeed, I never thought I'd be part of such an unconventional experiment." As the new pairs settled into their habitats, life on Gamma 7 began to change. Humans and Bajorans who had previously avoided each other now found themselves drawn together. In the station's communal areas, unlikely conversations sparked between former enemies. However, not everyone welcomed these changes. Voron Kal, a charismatic Bajoran separatist, gathered a group of followers in a dimly lit cargo bay. "Our very identity is under attack," he proclaimed, his voice filled with fervor. "We cannot allow ourselves to be corrupted by human influence." Kal's words resonated with many Bajorans who feared losing their cultural heritage. His followers began organizing protests outside the habitats, their angry chants echoing through the station's corridors. The rising tensions forced Colonel Harper and Ambassador Karex into an unlikely alliance. They met in a quiet corner of the station's operations center, both looking uncomfortable with the situation. "I never thought I'd say this," Colonel Harper began, "but we need to work together on this." Ambassador Karex nodded grimly. "Agreed. Kal's separatist movement threatens both our peoples now." Together, they established a joint human Bajoran security force to maintain order on the station and protect the experiment participants. As word of this collaboration spread, it caught the attention of high-ranking officials on both Earth and Bajor. Meanwhile, in their habitat, Patrick and Tara were oblivious to the chaos their connection had sparked. They sat by the window, watching a distant star go supernova, its brilliant light illuminating their faces. It's beautiful, Tara whispered, her hand finding Patrick's. He squeezed her hand gently. Not as beautiful as you. As they leaned in to kiss, the monitoring equipment recorded another spike in their pheromone levels. In the control room, Dr. Sokolov's team watched with growing excitement. The neural activity in their empathy centers is off the charts, one researcher exclaimed. Dr. Sokolov nodded, her eyes gleaming. If this continues, we might be looking at permanent changes in brain chemistry. This could fundamentally alter how humans and Bajorans perceive each other. News of the experiment's progress began to leak beyond Gamma-7. On Earth and Bajor, civilian populations started questioning the war's necessity. Grassroots peace movements gained traction, their voices growing louder with each passing day. The Andromedan Peacekeeping Force, intrigued by the potential of Dr. Sokolov's findings, approached Admiral Xanthor with a bold proposal. An interspecies integration zone, Admiral Xanthor mused, studying the plans. On a nearby uninhabited planet? The Andromedan representative nodded. A neutral territory where humans and Bajorans can coexist freely under our supervision. As discussions about the integration zone progressed, a shadow loomed over Gamma-7. A group of military hardliners from both Earth and Bajor had formed a covert coalition, determined to sabotage the experiment. We can't let this continue, a human general growled during a secure transmission. It threatens everything we fought for. His Bajoran counterpart nodded in agreement. We'll send our best operatives to infiltrate Gamma-7. They'll gather intelligence and find a way to end this madness. Unaware of the gathering storm, Patrick and Tara found themselves thrust into the spotlight as symbols of hope for interspecies peace. The weight of expectation began to strain their relationship. Sometimes I feel like we're lab rats, Patrick confessed one evening, his voice tinged with frustration. Tara sighed, running her fingers through her hair. I know. It's like the entire galaxy is watching our every move. As the experiment entered its next phase, Dr. Sokolov proposed a controversial step to Admiral Xanthor and the station's leadership. Intimate physical contact between the compatible pairs, she explained, her voice steady despite the shocked expressions around her. It's necessary to fully understand the extent of human-Bajoran bonding. The proposal sparked heated debate among the station's officials and the wider scientific community. Ethical concerns were raised, further polarizing opinions on the experiment. As tensions on Gamma-7 reached a boiling point, Admiral Xanthor implemented strict security protocols. The station buzzed with activity as peace advocates, separatists, military hardliners, and neutral peacekeepers converged. In their habitat, Patrick and Tara stood by the window, their fingers intertwined as they watched ships from various factions arrive at the station. The fate of human-Bajoran relations hung in the balance, and they found themselves at the center of a galactic storm. Whatever happens, Patrick said softly, turning to face Tara, I'm glad I met you. Tara's violet eyes met his, a mix of fear and persistence in her gaze. So am I, Patrick. So am I. As Gamma-7 braced for the next chapter in this unprecedented experiment, the actions of Patrick, Tara, and the other participants would shape the future of their species. The station held its breath, waiting to see whether this unexpected connection would usher in a new era of harmony or reignite the conflict with even greater intensity. As Gamma-7 braced for the next chapter in this unprecedented experiment, the actions of Patrick, Tara, and the other participants would shape the future of their species. The station held its breath, waiting to see whether this unexpected connection would usher in a new era of harmony or reignite the conflict with even greater intensity. Dr. Elena Sokolov's controversial proposal hung in the air, its implications reverberating through the station's corridors. Admiral Xanthor paced in his office, his four hands clasped behind his back as he weighed the potential consequences. After hours of deliberation, he made his decision. Proceed with the intimate contact phase, he told Dr. Sokolov, his voice grave, but implement enhanced security and monitoring protocols. We can't afford any mishaps. Within hours, Patrick and Tara found themselves relocated to a new private habitat. The room was similar to their previous living space, but with subtle differences. Hidden biosensors lined the walls, ready to capture every physiological response. As they entered, Patrick's hand found Tara's. Their eyes met, a mix of nervousness and excitement reflected in their gazes. "This is different," Patrick said, his voice barely above a whisper. Tara nodded, her violet eyes scanning the room. "It feels more intimate." They stood there for a moment, the weight of expectation heavy on their shoulders. Then, as if drawn by an invisible force, they moved towards each other. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, more intense than any they had shared before. The monitoring equipment hummed to life, recording unprecedented spikes in their hormone levels. In the control room, Dr. Sokolov's eyes widened as she watched the data stream in. "Incredible," she breathed. "The oxytocin levels are off the charts." As Patrick and Tara's embrace deepened, they felt a connection forming that transcended the physical. It was as if their very essences were intertwining, creating a bond that defied explanation. News of the intimate encounters spread quickly through Gamma 7. In the station's cafeteria, humans and Bajorans huddled in mixed groups, discussing the implications in hushed tones. "Do you think it could really bring peace?" a young human engineer asked his Bajoran colleague. Before she could respond, a commotion erupted near the entrance. Voron Kal strode in, flanked by his followers. His eyes blazed with fury as he addressed the crowd. "This experiment is an abomination," he shouted. "We must put an end to it before we lose ourselves entirely." As Kal's words ignited heated debates throughout the station, Patrick and Tara remained blissfully unaware in their habitat. They lay entwined, basking in the afterglow of their encounter. "Tara," Patrick said softly, "I feel different. It's like I can sense what you're feeling." Tara propped herself up on an elbow, her eyes wide. "I was just thinking the same thing. Patrick, I think I can feel your emotions." Their newfound empathic connection was soon put to the test. As they shared a quiet meal, Patrick suddenly tensed, a chill running down his spine. "Something's wrong," he said, rising to his feet. "We need to move. Now." Tara didn't question him. She could feel his urgency, as if it were her own. They had barely made it to the door when alarms began blaring throughout the station. Admiral Xanthor's voice crackled over the intercom. "Attention all personnel. We have a security breach. Initiate emergency protocols immediately." Patrick and Tara exchanged a glance, their shared fear palpable. Without a word, they slipped out of their quarters and into the chaos erupting in the corridors. As they navigated the labyrinthine passages of Gamma 7, they could sense the tension in the air. Humans and Bajorans alike scrambled for safety, the usual divisions between them forgotten in the face of a common threat. "This way," Tara whispered, pulling Patrick towards a maintenance hatch. Her Bajoran knowledge of the station's layout, combined with their newfound connection, guided them through the lesser-known areas of Gamma 7. They crawled through narrow conduits, their hearts pounding in sync. Behind them they could hear the sounds of pursuit, heavy footsteps and angry voices echoing through the metal passageways. "Who are they?" Patrick asked as they paused to catch their breath in a dimly lit junction. Tara shook her head. "I don't know, but I can feel their intent. They mean us harm." As they continued their desperate flight, they encountered other station residents. A human scientist helped them bypass a locked security door, while a Bajoran engineer pointed them towards a little-used service elevator. Their escape route took them through the heart of Gamma 7, exposing them to the full spectrum of reactions their experiment had sparked. They passed by groups of humans and Bajorans working together to maintain order, their previous animosities set aside. But they also witnessed pockets of resistance, where Kal's followers clashed with security forces. In the control room, Dr. Sokolov made a startling discovery. "Admiral," she called out, her voice urgent, "the pheromones from the intimate encounters, they're in the station's air recycling system." Admiral Xanthor's yellow eyes narrowed. "What are the implications, Doctor?" "It's too early to say for certain," Sokolov replied, her fingers flying over the console. "But if this continues, it could affect every human and Bajoran on the station." As Patrick and Tara continued their evasion, their pursuers grew ever closer. The chase was reaching its climax, and the next few moments would determine not just their fate, but the future of human-Bajoran relations. They found themselves in the main atrium, surrounded by a mix of humans and Bajorans. As their pursuers closed in, weapons drawn, the crowd began to stir. Voices rose in protest, bodies moved to shield the pair. Patrick and Tara stood back to back, their hands clasped tightly. They could feel the energy of the crowd, the mix of fear and defiance. As the standoff intensified, the fate of two species hung in the balance, poised on the edge of a knife. Knife's edge. The tension in the atrium was palpable, a powder keg ready to ignite at the slightest spark. Suddenly a low hum filled the air, growing in intensity until it vibrated through their bones. The lights flickered, and for a moment, everything seemed to hang suspended in time. Then chaos erupted. The artificial gravity generators failed, plunging the entire atrium into weightlessness. Bodies and objects alike lifted off the ground, floating in a surreal dance of confusion and panic. Patrick's military instincts kicked in immediately. He gripped Tara's hand tightly and pushed off from the floor, propelling them both towards a nearby support beam. "Hold on!" he shouted, his voice nearly lost in the cacophony of surprised yelps and shouts filling the air. Tara's fingers interpermeated with his, their movements perfectly synchronized. As they reached the beam, she used her momentum to swing them around, changing their trajectory towards a maintenance hatch she had spotted earlier. Their pursuers, caught off guard by the sudden loss of gravity, flailed helplessly. Weapons drifted out of reach, and their coordinated formation dissolved into a chaotic tangle of limbs and curses. "This way," Tara whispered, guiding Patrick through the zero-gravity maze of floating debris and disoriented station inhabitants. As they navigated the weightless environment, Patrick marveled at how in tune he felt with Tara's movements. It was as if he could anticipate her every action, their bodies moving in perfect harmony. Their newfound empathic connection seemed to have heightened in the face of danger, allowing them to communicate without words. They pushed off walls and ceilings, using their combined strength to propel themselves forward. The station's corridors became a three-dimensional playground, and they moved through it with surprising agility. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew fainter as their attackers struggled to adapt to the new conditions. Patrick allowed himself a moment of hope. Maybe they could actually escape this mess. As they rounded a corner, they nearly collided with another floating pair, a human man and a Bajoran woman, both looking as startled as Patrick and Tara felt. "Lieutenant Commander Marcus Ward," the man introduced himself quickly, steadying himself against a wall. "This is Lyra Dax. We were trapped in a sealed section when the gravity went out." Tara nodded, her eyes darting around for potential threats. "I'm Tara. This is Patrick. We're trying to reach the central control hub. Any idea what's going on?" Lyra shook her head, her long dark hair floating around her face like a halo. "Not sure, but we overheard some chatter about a power surge before communications went down. Something about pheromones interacting with the station's systems." Patrick and Tara exchanged a meaningful glance. Their intimate encounter, the experiment, could it have caused this? "We should stick together," Marcus suggested, his eyes alert and scanning their surroundings. "Safety in numbers, especially in this madhouse." Tara nodded in agreement. "Agreed, let's move." The four of them set off together, their movements becoming more coordinated as they adjusted to the zero-gravity environment. Patrick found himself impressed by how quickly they adapted as a team, their different skills complementing each other perfectly. As they made their way through the station, they encountered pockets of chaos and cooperation. In one section, they saw a mixed group of humans and Bajorans working together to secure loose equipment that posed a danger in the weightless environment. In another, they narrowly avoided a floating brawl between Khal's followers and station security. The entire station had become a swirling, three-dimensional battlefield. Patrick caught glimpses of Admiral Xanthor's security teams moving with practiced ease through the weightless corridors, their four-armed bodies giving them a distinct advantage in zero-gravity combat. As they approached the central hub, they encountered increasing resistance. Rogue security forces and extremist factions had taken advantage of the chaos to position themselves at key junctions, attempting to control access to vital areas of the station. "We need a distraction," Marcus whispered as they huddled behind a floating console, watching a group of armed men guarding the entrance to the control center. Tara's eyes lit up. I have an idea. See that panel over there? She pointed to a maintenance access point near the ceiling. If we can reach it, I think I can trigger a localized power fluctuation. It might give us the opening we need. Patrick nodded, already understanding her plan without needing further explanation. Their empathic connection allowed him to grasp the nuances of her strategy instantly. I'll give you a boost, he said, positioning himself. With a perfectly timed push, he launched Tara towards the panel. She twisted in midair, her fingers finding purchase on the edges of the access hatch. As she worked to bypass the security protocols, Patrick, Marcus, and Lyra kept watch, ready to act at a moment's notice. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. A familiar voice crackled over the intercom system. Dr. Elena Sokolov, her tone urgent but controlled. Attention all personnel. We are detecting an unprecedented spike in pheromone levels throughout the station. Exercise caution and report any unusual sensations or behavior immediately. Patrick felt a wave of dizziness wash over him, accompanied by a strange tingling sensation that seemed to emanate from deep within his chest. He looked at Tara and saw his own confusion mirrored in her eyes. Whatever was happening, it was clear that their experiment had taken an unexpected turn. As Tara finished her work on the panel, Patrick braced himself for what was to come. The next few moments would be crucial, not just for their survival, but for the future of human-Bajoran relations. With a final keystroke, Tara triggered the power fluctuation. Lights flickered, and for a brief moment, the guards at the control center entrance were distracted. It was all the opening they needed. Patrick locked eyes with Marcus, a silent understanding passing between them. Together, they propelled themselves forward, using the zero gravity to their advantage as they launched into action. The fate of Gamma 7, and perhaps the entire conflict, now rested in their hands. As they surged towards the control center, Patrick couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something much bigger than themselves. A turning point that would reshape the future of both their species. As they surged towards the control center, Patrick couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the cusp of something much bigger than themselves. A turning point that would reshape the future of both their peoples. Just as they reached the entrance, a low hum reverberated through the station. The floating debris around them began to shift, and Patrick felt an increasing pressure on his body. Gravity was returning. Brace yourselves, he called out, gripping a nearby console. Sector by sector, the artificial gravity reasserted itself. Bodies and objects settled back to the floor with a series of thuds and clatters. Patrick helped Tara to her feet, while Marcus steadied Lyra. Nice timing, Tara muttered, brushing herself off. Let's hope it's bought us some breathing room. They made their way into the central control hub, unopposed. The room was a hive of activity with screens flickering to life and consoles beeping urgently. Patrick approached the main terminal, Tara at his side. As his fingers touched the interface, Patrick felt a strange, tingling sensation. The screen in front of him lit up with a brilliant blue glow. He glanced at Tara, seeing his own surprise mirrored in her eyes. It's responding to us, she whispered, placing her hand next to his on the console. The moment their skin made contact, the entire system came alive. Holographic displays sprang up around them, showing the station's schematics, power distribution, and life support systems. Marcus whistled low. I've never seen anything like this. It's as if the station recognizes you two. Patrick nodded, his mind racing. It must be the pheromones. They've altered our biosignatures somehow. Working in perfect sync, Patrick and Tara navigated through the complex system. Their movements were fluid, almost dance-like, as they manipulated the holographic interfaces. Information flowed between them without the need for words, their shared consciousness allowing them to process data at an unprecedented speed. As they worked, Dr. Elena Sokolov's voice crackled over the intercom. Attention all personnel. We've made a breakthrough in our analysis of the pheromone event. The bonding process between humans and Bajorans has unlocked dormant genetic potential in both species. When working together, bonded pairs are displaying enhanced physical and mental capabilities. Patrick caught Tara's eye, a silent understanding passing between them. This explained the ease with which they were interfacing with the station's systems. Sokolov continued, her voice tinged with excitement. Furthermore, our preliminary findings suggest a possible shared ancestral connection between humans and Bajorans. We're continuing our research, but the implications are staggering. The news spread quickly through the station. Patrick and Tara could sense the shift in atmosphere through the station's internal sensors. Curiosity replaced fear, and the number of violent incidents dropped dramatically. As they delved deeper into the station systems, Patrick stumbled upon a heavily encrypted file. "Tara, look at this," he called out, his fingers flying over the holographic keyboard. Together they worked to break through the encryption. As the file opened, their eyes widened in disbelief. "This can't be," Tara breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. Before them was an ancient peace treaty between humans and Bajorans, dated thousands of years in the past. The document detailed a long-forgotten alliance between the two species, suggesting that their current conflict was based on centuries of misunderstanding and misinformation. Patrick's mind reeled at the implications. "We need to get this information out there," he said, turning to Marcus and Lyra. "Can you help us set up a station-wide broadcast?" As they worked to disseminate the information, alarms blared throughout the station. Admiral Xanthor's voice came over the intercom. "All personnel, be advised. We've detected several cloaked ships approaching Gamma 7, initiating emergency lockdown procedures for all docking bays and airlocks." Patrick's fingers danced across the console, bringing up the station's defensive systems. "It's the hardliners," he said grimly. "They're trying to extract their operatives." Tara nodded, her hands already moving to reinforce the station's shields. "We can't let them undo everything we've accomplished here." As they worked to secure the station, reports flooded in from all sectors. The Joint Human-Bajoran Security Team, led by Colonel Jenna Harper and Ambassador Karex, had successfully neutralized Vorinkal and his separatist faction in the hydroponics bay. The atmosphere on Gamma 7 was electric with possibility. As news of the ancient peace treaty spread, both humans and Bajorans began to question everything they thought they knew about their shared history. In the midst of the chaos, Patrick and Tara made another startling discovery. As they interfaced with the station's main computer, they uncovered evidence suggesting that Gamma 7 itself might be of ancient origin, designed to facilitate cooperation between humans and Bajorans. "Look at these schematics," Tara said, her voice filled with awe. "The station's core systems. They're unlike anything I've ever seen. It's as if they were built to be operated by bonded pairs like us." Patrick nodded, his mind racing with the possibilities. "We need to inform Admiral Xanthor. This changes everything." As they prepared to contact the Admiral, Dr. Sokolov entered the control hub, her eyes bright with excitement. "We need to expand the bonding experiment," she announced. "With your permission, Admiral." She nodded to Xanthor, who had just arrived. "I'd like to recruit more volunteers. We could create a core group of bonded pairs to act as ambassadors and mediators in the peace process." Admiral Xanthor's four eyes blinked in rapid succession as he processed the information. After a moment's consideration, he nodded. "Proceed, Doctor, but under strict ethical guidelines. We're in uncharted territory here." As the immediate crisis began to subside, Patrick and Tara found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of activity. The events on Gamma 7 had set in motion a chain reaction that promised to reshape human-Bajoran relations forever. Patrick looked at Tara, feeling the strength of their bond and the weight of responsibility on their shoulders. They had unlocked a potential that neither species had known existed, and now they faced the challenge of nurturing that potential and convincing others of its transformative power. As they prepared for the next phase of their journey, Patrick couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The future of both species now rested on their ability to bridge centuries of mistrust and conflict. With a shared look of commitment, Patrick and Tara turned back to the console, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The true test of their bond and the future of human-Bajoran relations was just beginning. With a shared look of persistence, Patrick and Tara turned back to the console, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The true test of their bond and the future of human-Bajoran relations was just starting to unfold. As they worked tirelessly to stabilize Gamma-7 systems, Dr. Elena Sokolov burst into the control hub, her eyes wide with excitement. "Patrick, Tara, we've made an incredible discovery," she exclaimed, her voice breathless. The pair turned to face her, their hands still moving in perfect synchronization across the holographic interface. "What is it, Doctor?" Patrick asked, his curiosity piqued. Dr. Sokolov held up a datapad, her fingers trembling slightly. "The amplified pheromones. They've triggered something extraordinary in you two and the other bonded pairs. We're detecting a new type of hormone being produced in your bodies. We're calling it synergix." Tora's brow furrowed. "Synergix? What does it do?" "It's enhancing your physical and mental capabilities when you're in close proximity to each other," Dr. Sokolov explained, her words tumbling out in a rush. "And you two, being the first and most strongly bonded pair, are showing the most dramatic improvements." As if to illustrate her point, Patrick suddenly became aware of a surge of energy coursing through his body. He glanced at Tara, seeing his own amazement reflected in her eyes. Without a word, they both turned back to the console, their movements becoming even more fluid and precise. Admiral Xanthor, who had been quietly observing the exchange, stepped forward. "Dr. Sokolov, what are the implications of this discovery?" The scientist's 4 eyes blinked rapidly as she considered the question. "Admiral, I believe this could be the key to unlocking the full potential of human-Bajoran cooperation. The bonded pairs are exhibiting increased strength, agility, and cognitive function when working together." Xanthor's antennae twitched thoughtfully. After a moment of contemplation, he nodded decisively. "Very well, I'm authorizing the creation of a special task force comprised of bonded human-Bajoran pairs. Their mission will be to explore the ancient sections of Gamma-7 that we've been unable to access until now." He turned to Patrick and Tara, who had paused in their work to listen. "You two will lead this task force. Your unique connection and enhanced abilities make you the ideal candidates." Patrick and Tara exchanged a glance, silently communicating their agreement. "We're ready, Admiral," Patrick said, speaking for both of them. As they prepared for their new mission, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red warning lights flashed across the control hub screens. "What's happening?" Tara asked, her fingers flying across the interface. Marcus, who had been monitoring the station's security feeds, called out, "We've got a problem. Someone's activated a dormant virus in the computer systems. It's threatening to shut down life support and other critical functions." Patrick's mind raced as he assessed the situation. This has to be the work of those military hardliners. They're making their move. Tara nodded grimly. "We need to stop this virus before it takes control of the entire station." As they worked frantically to combat the threat, Patrick became aware of a strange sensation. It was as if he could feel the station's systems as an extension of his own body, with Tara as a perfect counterbalance. Their movements became even more synchronized, their thoughts flowing seamlessly between them without the need for words. Dr. Sokolov watched in awe as Patrick and Tara's fingers danced across the holographic interface, their actions being broadcast on screens throughout the station. "Incredible," she murmured. "The synergix is allowing them to interface with the station's systems in ways we never thought possible." As news of the crisis spread, something remarkable began to happen across Gamma-7. Inspired by the sight of Patrick and Tara working in perfect harmony, humans and Bajorans throughout the station began to set aside their differences and work together. Volunteer teams formed spontaneously, with members of both species joining forces to maintain critical systems and care for those affected by the crisis. The station buzzed with a new energy as ancient prejudices gave way to a spirit of cooperation. In the control hub, Patrick and Tara continued their battle against the virus, their minds melding into a singular focus. As they delved deeper into the station's systems, they uncovered hidden chambers and advanced technology that had long been forgotten. "Look at this," Tara gasped, bringing up a holographic display of a vast network of unexplored areas within Gamma-7. Patrick's eyes widened as he took in the information. These chambers, they're full of ancient artifacts and databanks. Gamma-7 wasn't just a neutral meeting point. It was purpose-built to foster human-Bajoran cooperation. As they explored these newfound areas virtually, they discovered records of joint human-Bajoran space exploration missions and shared scientific advancements from millennia past. The implications were staggering, hinting at a shared history far more complex and intertwined than anyone had imagined. Meanwhile, Dr. Sokolov continued her analysis of the Synergix hormone, making a startling discovery. She approached Admiral Xanthor, her expression a mix of excitement and concern. "Admiral," she began, her voice low, "I found something about the nature of Synergix that could change everything. Prolonged exposure to the hormone appears to be altering the genetic makeup of both humans and Bajorans, bringing their physiologies closer together." Xanthor's antennae stood straight up in surprise. "Are you saying—" Dr. Sokolov nodded. "Yes, Admiral. If this process continues, it could potentially lead to the emergence of a new hybrid species over several generations." As the implications of this revelation began to sink in, Patrick and Tara's battle against the virus reached a critical point. The malicious code had adapted, becoming more resistant to their countermeasures. But as the danger increased, so did the strength of their connection. Patrick felt a surge of energy unlike anything he had experienced before. He turned to Tara, seeing the same intensity mirrored in her eyes. Without a word, they joined hands, their minds merging to an unprecedented degree. In that moment, they became something more than just two individuals. They were a perfect synthesis of human and Bajoran, their thoughts and actions so closely synchronized that they functioned as a single entity. With this new level of connection, they began to interface with Gamma-7 systems in ways that even the ancient builders had not anticipated. Lines of code flowed through their joined consciousness as they worked to unravel the virus's complex structure. As Patrick and Tara pushed the boundaries of their newfound abilities, the fate of Gamma-7 hung in the balance. The virus continued to adapt and spread, but with each passing moment, the bonded pair came closer to cracking its defenses. The entire station held its breath, watching as human and Bajoran worked as one to save them all. In this crucial moment, the future of not just Gamma-7, but of human-Bajoran relations and perhaps the entire galaxy rested in their hands. Hands. In that moment, a surge of energy coursed through their joined bodies and their perception of reality shifted dramatically. The holographic interface before them transformed into a vast, three-dimensional construct within their shared mental space. The station's systems appeared as an intricate web of light and data, pulsing with life and information. Within this mental landscape, the virus stood out as a malevolent, writhing mass of dark code, its tendrils reaching out to corrupt everything they touched. "Do you see it?" Tara's voice echoed in Patrick's mind, their thoughts intertwined. "Yes," Patrick responded silently. "It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time." Together, they navigated through the virtual representation of Gamma-7 systems, their movements fluid and synchronized. As they delved deeper, they began to discern patterns in the virus's structure, identifying vulnerabilities that had been invisible before. "There," Tara pointed to a pulsating node at the center of the viral construct. "That's the core. If we can neutralize it—" Patrick nodded, understanding her plan without the need for words. They focused their combined mental energy on the viral core, probing its defenses and searching for a way to unravel its complex coding. As they worked, Dr. Sokolov monitored their vital signs from a nearby console, her eyes wide with amazement. "Admiral," she called to Xanthor, "the Synergix levels in their bodies are off the charts. I've never seen anything like this." Xanthor moved to her side, his antennae twitching with interest. "What are the implications, Doctor?" Dr. Sokolov's fingers flew across her datapad as she analyzed the incoming data. The hormone is not only enhancing their mental and physical capabilities, but also changing them on a fundamental level. She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Admiral, I believe the Synergix is altering their reproductive systems. If my calculations are correct, it might eventually make human Bajoran reproduction possible." The Admiral's four eyes blinked rapidly as he processed this information. Keep monitoring them closely, Doctor. We need to understand every aspect of these changes. Meanwhile, in another part of the station, Colonel Jenna Harper and Ambassador Carex led a joint human-Bajoran security team through the winding corridors of Gamma-7. Their movements were precise and coordinated, a testament to the growing unity between the two species. The signal's getting stronger, Carex said, his ridged nose wrinkling as he studied a handheld scanner. We're close to the source of the virus. Colonel Harper nodded, her hand resting on her weapon. Remember, team, we're looking for a hidden transmitter. It could be disguised as any piece of equipment. As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a nondescript maintenance panel. Kirex's scanner beeped insistently. This is it, he announced. With practiced efficiency, the team secured the area and began to carefully dismantle the panel. Inside, nestled among a tangle of wires and circuitry, they found a small, pulsating device. Clever bastard, Harper muttered. They've integrated it into the station's power grid. Carex, can you disable it without triggering any failsafes? The Bajoran ambassador nodded, his fingers moving deftly over the device. I believe so, Colonel. Just give me a moment. Back in the control hub, Patrick and Tara were making progress against the virus, but the intensity of their connection was having unexpected side effects. As their synergix levels continued to rise, they became acutely aware of each other's presence in a way they had never experienced before. Patrick felt his heart race as Tara's hand brushed against his, a jolt of electricity passing between them. He glanced at her, noticing the flush in her cheeks and the quickening of her breath. The air around them seemed to crackle with tension. Focus, Tara murmured, her voice husky. We're almost there. They redoubled their efforts, pushing through the distracting surge of attraction. In their shared mental space, they continued to unravel the virus's defenses, drawing ever closer to its core. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Marcus's voice cut through the chaos. We've got a problem. The virus has activated some kind of self-destruct sequence. It's trying to overload the power core. Patrick and Tara's eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. They knew what they had to do. We need more power, Patrick said, his voice strained. We have to push our connection even further. Tara nodded, her grip on his hands tightening. Together, then. They closed their eyes, diving deeper into their shared consciousness. The world around them faded away as they poured every ounce of their combined will into neutralizing the virus. In their mental landscape, they saw the viral core begin to fracture under their assault. But as they pressed their advantage, the self-destruct sequence accelerated, threatening to tear Gamma-7 apart. Time seemed to slow as Patrick and Tara raced against the clock. Their bodies moved in perfect synchronization, fingers dancing across the holographic interface as they fought to stabilize the station systems. The intensity of the moment, combined with their skyrocketing synergix levels, pushed them to the brink. The line between their individual selves began to blur, their thoughts and emotions merging into a single, unified consciousness. In that moment of perfect unity, they found the key to unraveling the virus. With a final, concentrated effort, they struck at its core, their combined will shattering its defenses. The virus collapsed, its malicious code dissolving into harmless fragments. As the immediate threat passed, Patrick and Tara became aware of the physical world once more. They found themselves in a tight embrace, their bodies pressed close together, hearts racing in unison. Their eyes met, and in that moment, all the pent-up attraction and desire they had been suppressing came rushing to the surface. Without a word, their lips met in a passionate kiss, their bodies responding to the surge of synergix hormones coursing through their systems. It was only when they heard a gasp from Dr. Sokolov that they realized their intimate moment had been broadcast throughout the station. The holographic interfaces, still linked to their heightened mental state, had projected their embrace for all to see. As they pulled apart, flushed and breathing heavily, they became aware of the profound impact their actions had on those around them. Throughout Gamma-7, humans and Bajorans who had witnessed their passionate display were looking at each other with new eyes, the barriers between their species seeming to crumble in the wake of Patrick and Tara's union. Admiral Xanthor cleared his throat, his antennae twitching with a mix of embarrassment and amusement. "Well," he said, addressing the stunned silence in the control hub, "it seems we've entered a new era of human-Bajoran relations." As Patrick and Tara struggled to regain their composure, they knew that their actions had set in motion changes that would reshape not just their own lives, but the future of both their species. The challenges ahead were numerous, but in that moment, as they stood united in the aftermath of crisis, the possibilities seemed endless. Endless. The implications of their actions reverberated throughout Gamma 7, setting off a chain reaction that would reshape the future of human-Bajoran relations. In the days that followed, Gamma 7 experienced an unprecedented surge of activity. The station's medical facilities, once spacious and well-equipped, now bustled with a constant stream of human-Bajoran couples seeking compatibility tests and synergics hormone treatments. Dr. Elena Sokolov found herself at the center of this whirlwind, her expertise in demand as never before. "We need more staff," she announced to Admiral Xanthor, her usually neat hair disheveled from long hours of work. "And more equipment. We're running at maximum capacity, and the requests keep coming in." The Admiral's antennae twitched as he considered the situation. "I'll see what we can do, Doctor. In the meantime, I've authorized the construction of a new residential sector. We're calling it Unity Square." As plans for Unity Square took shape, Patrick and Tara found themselves thrust into the spotlight. Their intimate moment, broadcast throughout the station, had turned them into unwitting symbols of this new era of cooperation. "Another interview request," Tara sighed, scrolling through her datapad. "This time from the Bajoran Spiritual Network." Patrick ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of their newfound celebrity. "We should do it. It's important to keep the momentum going." Their days became a blur of public appearances, educational seminars, and media interviews. They shared their experiences, fielded questions about the synergics hormone, and addressed concerns about cultural preservation. Through it all, they tried to maintain a sense of normalcy in their relationship, stealing moments of privacy whenever they could. One evening, as they sat in their quarters, exhausted from another long day, Patrick noticed a tension in Tara's shoulders. "Are you okay?" he asked, reaching out to massage her neck. Tara leaned into his touch, closing her eyes. "I'm just tired. Sometimes I wonder if we're doing the right thing, being so public about all this." Before Patrick could respond, their comm units chimed simultaneously. Admiral Xanthor's voice filled the room. "Patrick, Tara, report to the control hub immediately. We've detected something unusual in the ancient sections of the station." They exchanged a look of curiosity mixed with apprehension before hurrying to the control hub. Upon arrival, they found the Admiral standing before a holographic display of Gamma 7's core, his four eyes fixed on a pulsating energy signature. What are we looking at, sir?" Patrick asked, studying the unfamiliar patterns. Admiral Xanthor turned to face them, his expression grave. "We're not entirely sure. Initial scans suggest some kind of dormant technology, far more advanced than anything we've encountered before. I'm assembling a team to investigate, and I want you two to lead it." Over the next few days, a specialized team was formed, consisting of other bonded human-Bajoran pairs, each selected for their unique skills and enhanced abilities. As they prepared for their mission, Dr. Sokolov conducted final medical checks on the team members. "Your synergics levels are holding steady," she informed Patrick and Tara as she reviewed their results. "But I want you to report any unusual sensations or abilities immediately. We're still learning about the long-term effects of the hormone." The team began their descent into the ancient core of Gamma 7, navigating through narrow, winding corridors that seemed to predate the rest of the station by millennia. As they progressed deeper, they encountered a series of intricate security systems and puzzles. "Look at this," Tara said, running her hand over a smooth panel covered in unfamiliar symbols. "It seems to require input from both a human and a Bajoran simultaneously." Patrick nodded, stepping up beside her. "These challenges, they're designed to test our ability to work together." As they worked through each obstacle, Patrick and Tara's enhanced bond proved invaluable. Their thoughts flowed seamlessly between them, allowing them to tackle complex problems with unprecedented speed and efficiency. After hours of careful progress, they reached a massive, ornate door unlike anything they had seen before. As Patrick and Tara approached it, the air around them seemed to crackle with energy. "This is it," Patrick breathed, his heart racing with anticipation. "Whatever's behind this door, it's what we've been looking for." Tara nodded, reaching out to take his hand. Together, they placed their palms on the door's surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low hum that reverberated through their bodies, the door began to open, revealing a chamber bathed in soft, pulsating light. As they stepped inside, a voice echoed around them, seemingly coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Welcome, children of Earth and Bajor. I am the Guardian, and I have been waiting for you for a very long time." Patrick and Tara exchanged a look of wonder and trepidation. They stood on the threshold of a discovery that would change everything, not just for them, but for their entire species. As the Guardian's presence filled the chamber, they knew that their greatest challenge and their greatest opportunity lay ahead. As the Guardian's presence filled the chamber, Patrick and Tara felt a sense of awe and anticipation wash over them. "We are ready," Tara said, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. The Guardian's voice resonated through the chamber once more. "Very well. Let us begin the trials that will test your bond and your worthiness." As Patrick and Tara prepared to face the Guardian's challenges, they were unaware of the growing tensions outside the ancient core. On Gamma 7, the influx of humans and Bajorans seeking to explore their newfound compatibility had reached unprecedented levels. Unity Square, the newly constructed residential sector, buzzed with activity. Human and Bajoran couples strolled hand in hand, their faces alight with the excitement of new possibilities. Children of both species played together in parks, their laughter a testament to the breaking down of old barriers. In his office overlooking the square, Admiral Xanthor studied reports on the increased population and security risks. His antennae twitched with concern as he activated the station-wide communication system. "Attention all personnel," he announced. "Due to the recent population surge, we are implementing enhanced security protocols. Andromedan peacekeepers will be patrolling key areas. Your cooperation is appreciated." As the Admiral's words echoed through the station, a small group gathered in a dimly lit maintenance tunnel. General Victor Hawthorne, a stern-faced human with steel-gray hair, addressed his team. "Our window of opportunity is narrow," he said, his voice low and intense. "We must reach the Guardian before those two lovebirds complete their tests." Beside him, Commander Lyra Doss, a Bajoran woman with piercing eyes, nodded in agreement. "Remember, our primary objective is to gain control of the Guardian's knowledge. Destruction is a last resort." As the infiltration team activated their cloaking devices and began their journey through the maintenance tunnels, Patrick and Tara faced their first challenge within the Guardian's chamber. The air shimmered, and they found themselves standing on what appeared to be the bridge of a starship. Alarms blared and holographic crew members rushed about in panic. "Your vessel is caught in a temporal anomaly," the Guardian's voice explained. "You must work together to stabilize the ship and prevent a catastrophic timeline collapse." Patrick's hands flew over the holographic controls, his mind racing to understand the complex temporal mechanics at play. Tara, drawing on her Bajoran intuition, sensed fluctuations in the fabric of space-time. "Patrick, there's a pattern to the anomaly," she said, her eyes closed in concentration. "If we modulate the shields to match its frequency..." As they worked in perfect synchronization, their synergix hormone levels began to spike. In the observation room, Dr. Elena Sokolov leaned forward, her eyes wide as she studied the readouts. "Incredible," she murmured. "Their neural patterns are aligning in ways we've never seen before." Back in the simulated bridge, Patrick and Tara's movements became fluid and coordinated, as if they were two parts of a single organism. With a final, precisely timed adjustment, they stabilized the ship and emerged from the anomaly. The simulation dissolved, leaving them back in the Guardian's chamber. They turned to each other, breathless and exhilarated. "Did you feel that?" Tara asked, her eyes shining. Patrick nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "It was like we were..." "One mind," they finished in unison. As they prepared for the next challenge, neither of them noticed the faint shimmer of a cloaking device at the far end of the chamber. Outside in Unity Square, the situation was rapidly deteriorating. A group of human and Bajoran separatists, their faces contorted with anger, had gathered to protest the ongoing integration. "Keep Gamma 7 pure," they chanted, waving signs with xenophobic slogans. Colonel Jenna Harper surveyed the scene from a nearby security post, her expression grim. "This is getting out of hand," she said to Ambassador Carex, who stood beside her. "We need to contain this before it spreads." Carex nodded, his normally serene features clouded with concern. "Agreed, but we must be careful not to escalate the situation." As they debated their next move, the protest turned violent. A Bajoran separatist hurled a makeshift explosive device toward a group of mixed-species families. In that moment, Harper and Carex knew they had no choice. "All units, move in," Harper ordered into her comm unit. "Use minimal force. Priority is protecting civilians." As the joint human-Bajoran security teams moved to engage the protesters, Patrick and Tara faced their next trial within the Guardian's chamber. This time they found themselves in what appeared to be an ancient library, filled with holographic books and data crystals. "Before you lies the accumulated knowledge of countless civilizations," the Guardian's voice intoned. "Your task is to uncover the truth about the shared history of humans and Bajorans." As they began to sift through the vast repository of information, Patrick and Tara's enhanced bond allowed them to process and synthesize data at an astonishing rate. They uncovered evidence of joint human-Bajoran colonization efforts on distant worlds, dating back millennia before either civilization's recorded history. "This is incredible," Patrick breathed, his knees going weak from the implications. "Our peoples have been connected for far longer than anyone realized." Tara nodded, her fingers tracing the outline of an ancient star map. "It's as if we were always meant to find each other again." As they delved deeper into the shared history of their species, General Hawthorne and Commander Doss's team finally breached the outer defenses of the ancient core. They entered a vast chamber filled with dormant technology, its purpose beyond their comprehension. "We're close," Hawthorne said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Guardian's central hub should be just ahead." As they approached the final barrier, a deep rumble shook the chamber. Lights flashed and a countdown sequence began, displayed on holographic screens that materialized around them. "Fail-safe activated," an automated voice announced. "Chamber lockdown in progress. Self-destruct sequence initiated." Doss cursed under her breath. "We've triggered some kind of defense mechanism. We need to abort the mission." Hawthorne's face hardened with tenacity. "No, we've come too far to turn back now. We push forward, regardless of the cost." As the infiltrators raced against time, Patrick and Tara's final test was interrupted by the Guardian's urgent warning. "Intruders have breached the outer defenses," it informed them. "The fate of this facility and the knowledge it contains now rests in your hands." Patrick and Tara exchanged a determined look, their minds already working in tandem to formulate a plan. "We won't let you down," Tara said, her voice resolute. As they prepared to face this unexpected threat, their deepened bond manifested in a new and startling way. Suddenly, Patrick found himself seeing through Tara's eyes, experiencing her thoughts and emotions as if they were his own. "Tara," he gasped, "are you—" "Feeling it too," she finished, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's like we're truly one," they said in unison, marveling at this new level of connection. With their enhanced abilities and newfound unity, Patrick and Tara set out to confront the intruders and save the Guardian. As they navigated the complex defenses of the ancient core, they moved with perfect synchronization, their every action a fluid dance of shared purpose. The countdown to self-destruct continued its relentless march, the fate of Gamma 7 hanging in the balance. Patrick and Tara knew that the next few moments would determine not only their own future, but the future of human-Bajoran relations, and perhaps the course of galactic history itself. As they rounded the final corner, they came face to face with General Hawthorne and Commander Doss, whose expressions shifted from surprise to unshakable focus. The two pairs stood frozen for a moment, the air crackling with tension as they sized each other up. "Stand down," Patrick said, his voice carrying an authority that surprised even him. "You don't understand what's at stake here." Hawthorne's hand moved to his weapon. Oh, we understand perfectly. It's you who doesn't see the bigger picture. As the confrontation loomed, the ancient chamber trembled, time running out for all of them. The next move would determine everything, and Patrick and Tara knew they had to act fast to prevent catastrophe. Catastrophe. As the tension in the chamber reached its peak, something extraordinary began to happen. A soft, ethereal glow emanated from Patrick and Tara's skin, starting as a faint shimmer and intensifying until they were bathed in bioluminescent light. The sudden transformation caught everyone off guard, including the two at its center. "What's happening to us?" Tara gasped, looking at her glowing hands in wonder. Patrick's eyes widened as he felt a surge of energy course through his body. "I don't know, but it feels incredible." General Hawthorne took a step back, his hand tightening on his weapon. "What kind of trick is this?" As the glow intensified, Patrick and Tara felt their connection deepen even further. Suddenly, they could sense the very essence of the ancient technology surrounding them. The station's systems pulsed in their minds like a living entity. Without a word, they moved in perfect unison, their enhanced strength and agility propelling them through the chamber with breathtaking speed. They weaved through the complex security barriers as if they'd known their patterns all their lives. Hawthorne and Doss scrambled to react, but they were outmatched. Patrick and Tara's movements were a fluid dance, impossible to predict or counter. In a matter of seconds, they had disarmed and subdued the hardliner operatives who stood in their way. "This ends now," Patrick said, his voice resonating with newfound authority. Tara's eyes locked onto the central console where Hawthorne and Doss had initiated their data transfer. "They've already started the process. We need to stop it before it's too late." As Patrick and Tara approached the console, they felt the Guardian's presence intensify. The ancient AI recognized their unique bond and, in that moment of crisis, made a decision that would change everything. A surge of energy coursed through Patrick and Tara, far more potent than anything they'd experienced before. Their minds expanded, suddenly able to process vast amounts of information. They could see the intricate web of the station systems, the data flow, the fail-safes, all of it laid bare before them. "We can do this," Tara said, her fingers dancing over the holographic interface. Patrick nodded, his own hands moving in perfect synchronization with hers. Together. As they worked to halt the data transfer and stabilize the chamber, waves of energy pulsed through the ancient core. Dormant systems flickered to life, responding to their touch as if awakening from a long slumber. Hawthorne, realizing his plan was unraveling, made a desperate lunge for the power core. "If we can't have it, no one will." Patrick and Tara sensed his intent before he even moved. In a flash, they positioned themselves between Hawthorne and the Guardian's central processor. As the General triggered the overload, their bodies became living conduits, channeling the destructive energy into a contained field. The strain was immense. Patrick felt as if every cell in his body was on fire. Beside him, Tara gritted her teeth, her face a mask of drive. Their bioluminescent glow intensified, becoming almost blinding as they fought to contain the explosion. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, the fate of Gamma-7 hung in the balance. Then, with a final surge of effort, Patrick and Tara redirected the last of the destructive energy. The explosion collapsed in on itself, leaving nothing but a faint shimmer in the air. As the immediate danger passed, the toll of their heroic effort became apparent. Patrick and Tara swayed on their feet, their bodies still glowing, but now with a fainter, pulsing light. "We did it," Patrick whispered, his voice weak. Tara managed a small smile. "We saved them all." Their eyes met one last time before they collapsed, their bodies intertwining as they fell. The glow surrounding them dimmed, but didn't fade entirely, a testament to the extraordinary bond they shared. The Guardian's voice echoed through the chamber, tinged with what almost sounded like concern. "Emergency protocols activated, initiating stasis field to preserve vital functions." A shimmering energy field enveloped Patrick and Tara's still forms, suspending them in a state between life and death. As the field stabilized, alarms blared throughout the station, alerting medical teams to the crisis in the ancient core. In Unity Square, the last pockets of resistance among the protesters were crumbling. The sight of bonded pairs working together to restore order had a profound impact on the crowd. Many who had come to voice their opposition to integration now found themselves questioning their beliefs. Colonel Harper lowered her weapon, surveying the calming scene with a mix of relief and cautious optimism. "I think we've turned a corner here, Ambassador." Carex nodded, his antennae twitching with scarcely controlled emotion. "Indeed, but I fear this is only the beginning of a much larger change." As if in response to his words, a wave of energy rippled through the station. Lights flickered, and for a moment, every screen on Gamma 7 displayed the same image. Patrick and Tara, suspended in their stasis field, their bodies still faintly glowing. In her lab, Dr. Sokolov stared at the readings flooding her monitors, her eyes wide with a mixture of scientific curiosity and concern. What in the world have those two done? As medical teams raced to the ancient core and news of Patrick and Tara's actions began to spread, a palpable sense of awe settled over Gamma 7. In barracks and living quarters, in shops and laboratories, humans and Bajorans alike found themselves drawn together, watching events unfold with anxious anticipation. The station itself seemed to hum with newfound energy, ancient systems awakening after millennia of dormancy. As the true scope of what had transpired in the Guardian's chamber became clear, one thing was certain. Nothing on Gamma 7 would ever be the same again. As Patrick and Tara lay suspended in the shimmering stasis field, Gamma 7 held its collective breath. The station hummed with a newfound energy, ancient systems stirring to life after millennia of dormancy. In her lab, Dr. Sokolov's fingers flew across holographic displays, her eyes darting between the couple's vital signs and the unprecedented readings flooding her monitors. "These changes are unlike anything we've ever seen," she muttered, her voice a mix of awe and concern. "Their cellular structure is evolving." Days turned to weeks as the station's population anxiously awaited news of their hero's fate. Unity Square, once the epicenter of conflict, became a gathering place for humans and Bajorans alike. They came together, sharing stories of Patrick and Tara's bravery, their own perspectives slowly shifting as they found common ground. In the depths of the ancient core, the Guardian's presence pulsed steadily, its vast consciousness focused on the two beings who had risked everything to protect it. As the energy field surrounding Patrick and Tara fluctuated, the Guardian made a decision that would alter the course of history. A surge of power coursed through the stasis field, causing Patrick and Tara's bioluminescence to flare brilliantly. The entire station seemed to hold its breath as the suspended animation dissolved, and the couple's eyes flew open with a shared gasp. Patrick blinked, his vision clearing to reveal Tara's face mere inches from his own. "Tara, are you?" His words trailed off as he noticed the changes. Tara's distinctive Bajoran nose ridges had softened, while her eyes now held a hint of human coloration. As he reached out to touch her face, he saw that his own hand had taken on a subtle Bajoran skin tone. Tara's eyes widened in wonder as she took in Patrick's transformed appearance. "We've changed," she whispered, her voice a mix of awe and uncertainty. As they sat up, their movements perfectly synchronized, they became aware of a new presence in their minds. The Guardian's voice resonated within them, no longer external but an integral part of their consciousness. "Welcome back," it intoned, its digital voice tinged with what could only be described as pride. "You have undergone a significant transformation. Your bodies now represent the perfect synthesis of human and Bajoran physiology." Patrick and Tara stood, marveling at the ease with which they moved in unison. As they did, they noticed that their connection extended beyond just each other. They could sense the very pulse of Gamma 7 itself, its systems laid bare before their mind's eye. "This is incredible," Tara breathed, her fingers tracing the outline of a nearby console. As she did, the interface sprang to life, responding to her mere touch. Patrick nodded, his mind already exploring the vast network of the station's systems. "It's like we're part of Gamma 7 now. I can see everything." Their newfound abilities didn't go unnoticed. Dr. Sokolov burst into the chamber, her eyes wide with a mixture of scientific curiosity and concern. "Patrick! Tara! You're awake! How do you feel?" The couple turned to face her, their skin emitting a soft, pulsating glow. Different, Patrick said, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth, but in the best possible way. As Dr. Sokolov began running scans, Patrick and Tara's attention was drawn to a previously hidden section of the chamber. Without a word, they moved in perfect synchronization towards a seamless wall. As they approached, intricate patterns of light danced across the surface, responding to their presence. Tara placed her hand on the wall, and a doorway materialized, revealing a vast archive beyond. "Dr. Sokolov," she called, her voice filled with excitement. "I think you're going to want to see this." The trio stepped into the hidden chamber, their eyes widening at the sight before them. Holographic displays sprang to life, showcasing scientific marvels and cultural artifacts from the ancient human-Bajoran alliance. Patrick and Tara moved through the space with purpose, their enhanced minds processing the wealth of information at an astonishing rate. "This is incredible," Dr. Sokolov breathed, her scientific curiosity overriding her initial concern. "With this knowledge, we could revolutionize our understanding of both human and Bajoran history." As Patrick and Tara explored the archive, their transformative journey sparked a new wave of integration on Gamma 7. News of their awakening spread rapidly, and the station buzzed with renewed energy and purpose. In Unity Square, Colonel Harper addressed a gathering of humans and Bajorans, her voice filled with hope. "What we've witnessed here is nothing short of miraculous. Patrick and Tara have shown us the true potential of our two peoples working as one." Ambassador Carrick stood beside her, his antennae twitching with barely suppressed emotion. "Indeed, their transformation is a testament to the compatibility between our species. It is time we embrace this unity and move forward together." As the days passed, more human Bajoran pairs came forward, volunteering for bonding procedures. Dr. Sokolov's team, guided by Patrick and Tara's insights, worked tirelessly to develop a safe method for inducing controlled physiological changes in bonded pairs. In the heart of the ancient core, Patrick and Tara stood before a newly activated holographic interface, their bodies glowing softly in the dim light. As they worked to integrate the discovered technology into Gamma 7 systems, they shared a look of purpose and love. "Ready to change the world?" Tara asked, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Patrick nodded, intertwining his fingers with hers. "Together," he replied, "I think we already have." As they turned back to their work, the station hummed with renewed purpose. Gamma 7, once a neutral meeting ground, was transforming into something far greater, a beacon of hope and unity in a vast, ever-changing galaxy.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.